Yo, what's going on, everybody? I hope you enjoyed the last video. I see a good little bit of support on it, getting a good couple views. I do appreciate you checking it out. Um, I'm going to be coming back with some more GTA 5 gameplay in this video. Going to be doing some Michael, going to tackle a couple missions there. You know, we're all waiting for the GTA 6 to come out. You best believe that when that game comes out, you're going to get some banger story times to some GTA 6 gameplay. So hopefully they don't keep us waiting too long. But I think without anything else, we're probably just going to get into the story today. So this story takes place when I was about in the 8th grade. I was around 14 years old. And today's story is about, what you can probably tell from the title of this video, is the worst girl I've ever smoked with, or smoked out. It wouldn't have mattered if she smoked me out in this case. If she still reacted the way she did, I would not have had a good time and would have probably still told a story about it. So, I went to this school in 8th grade briefly. It was not the best school, but I still made a couple friends. And we're gonna call this girl Kylie in this story. And Kylie was one of the friends that I did end up meeting, and one of the people that I hung out with outside of school in this area for the brief time that I was there. So me and Kylie basically just both wanted to smoke one day, and we hadn't smoked together before, really hung out. We had just talked in school. So we arranged to meet up at this park in our neighborhood area that wasn't too far from either of our houses. It was closer to hers, further from mine, but either way, we were gonna meet up there. So I leave my house. I leave all the good loot there. You know, I've got a joint there ready for us for when we get back. Cause I was gonna smoke. You know, I smoke pretty much every day, but today I wanted someone to smoke with, and just so happened she did as well. So I leave everything at the house. The plan was to come back to my house at the time. So I leave everything there. I walk down to the park, just me, and I meet up with her, and she's there. She's got this bike with her. I don't know why she brought this bike. Both the front and back wheel was deflated, and it was one of those stupid ass beach bikes with like a purple decal and butterflies on it. Like, it was so shitty. The wheels were completely flat. Like, the only thing it would be good for is riding down a hill, and even then, it's probably still a death trap. So I do not know why she brought this bike, but we leave the park. We start heading down to my house. I'm just chatting it up with her, asking her how her day's going. She says it's going good. She asks about mine. My day's going chill. You know, I'm just ready to smoke, chat it up. But you know, that's not gonna happen. It's not gonna be a good sesh. I didn't know that at the time, but while we're walking, she starts FaceTiming this guy. I guess it's her brother. But while we're walking, she's like keeping convo with the guy on the phone and me. You know, more or less keeping convo with me, not really so much talking to the guy on the phone. Like she thought I was gonna abduct her or some shit. I really don't know, but she stayed on the phone with this guy the whole story pretty much. So we make it back to my house, and I go inside. She comes in the living room. I'm like, can you chill here for a minute? I'll go back here, grab the joint from my room, and we'll go out and smoke it in the shed out back if that's cool. At the time, there was a shed in the backyard of where I stayed, and I'd cleaned this shed out pretty fucking good. Like, the shed was still falling apart a little bit, but I rearranged everything in there where I had like a little table and a couple chairs. So it was a pretty cool smoke session. It wasn't too hot in the season at the time, so it was a pretty good spot to be out of sight, out of mind, and kind of like a little hot box. So I said, "Is that cool, Kylie?" She's like, "Yeah, that's fine, whatever." I grabbed the joint, the lighter, and we walk back out there. She's on the phone with this guy, you know, whatever. I open the shed, we go in, sit down, I pull out the ashtray, and I light up the joint, and I hit it, and I pass it to her. We don't really talk about too much because she's on the phone with this guy, and the more conversation I tried to pull, you know, the couple words I'd get out of her, like, this bitch would not talk to me. She was just more focused on the person on the phone, which was apparently her brother. I could give a fuck who it was. You know, all I want out of this session is a conversation, a little bit of enjoyment for the both of us, but she was more focused on the person on the phone. So I pass it to her. She hits it a couple times. She passes it back, and we do this about 3 or 4 times. We get about halfway through the joint. This was not any crazy weed, just some weed I had gotten from my dad. Nothing outrageous. Like, I don't even think the weed was purple, just some good green shit. The way she reacted to this weed is like, you know, Paul from the fucking Alien movie, like, pulled the shit out of his back pocket and gave her some space weed. That's how she reacted. So, you know, halfway through this joint, I'm realizing that I'm pretty stoned. I'm not getting any conversation out of her, and I'm kind of just wasting my weed. At this point, I would have rather just smoke it alone. You know, if I'm gonna smoke with a fucking brick wall, I might as well go smoke with a brick wall. That's what I'll do, and I'll have more weed for myself. And then I could maybe talk to the brick wall and get some enjoyment out of it, you know? That's the way I'm gonna rationalize that. So I'm like, alright, I'm pretty high. Kylie, are you pretty high? You know, she seemed pretty stoned to me. Just looking at her. She's like, yeah, that's good. You can put it out. I'm like, all right, I'll put the joint out. We sit there for about a minute, and I'm high. And she's not talking really. I'm like, all right, you down to go home? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, I'll walk you home, whatever, because she's pretty high. So I go to stand up, and she goes to stand up. Everything's cool, right? Stands up, pushes the chair back. You guys ever fall back on your bed? Like, you know, you're tired, but you know your fucking bed's behind you, so it's gonna catch you. You're gonna be alright, you know? Yeah, that's what she did. She stood up out of this chair and she fell straight back into like the shed's wall, the shelves, but more importantly what she fell into was a trash can. One of those old 1900s smaller metal trash can bins with the lid on top, like with the handle right on top of the lid. So it's not an even surface to fall on. And either way, there was like a fucking hoe and a couple other yard tools in the corner of the area she fell in. So I was shocked. She fell straight back into that shit, and I'm panicked. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm staring at her for a couple of seconds. She's not moving. Like, she's not moving. She's not like trying to get up, not grabbing it. I'm just like, what the fuck? So I grab her from under her arms. I was skinny at the time. I've always been a skinny person. But she was a little more bigger than me. Like, she was a tad bit bigger than me, and she wasn't a hefty girl. She was just a bigger woman, you know, and it was a little bit heavier than me. So I'm trying to pick her up. I'm struggling a little bit to pick her up, and I finally get her up on her feet, and she finally stands up. Thank God. And I get her to stand up, and I'm like, "Whoa, are you straight, Kylie?" You know, and she's like, I'm good. And I grab her phone for her off the ground. I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm going to walk you home. And we get out the shed. I shut the shed door. I left the half joint. I left the lighter in there. I wasn't going to fuck with any of that right now. Like, I felt like a criminal. Like, felt like this bitch is going to pass out on the walk home. And I'm not going to be able to drag her. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do, because just off of that, standing up, you know, now that I think about it, she could have had low iron levels. That really could have been what it was. It might have been the weed and low iron levels. I'm not sure if she was taking, you know, eating what she needed for her iron or not, but that could have been a culprit there. So we get out the shed. She grabs her bullshit ass bike with the flat wheels. We start walking down the road, and I finally get her back to her house. Not her house, but we go back to the park that we met up at, and I'm like, all right, you straight? You got all your shit? Like, you didn't leave anything? And I wouldn't have cared if she left anything. I would have been like, alright, cool, whatever. I'll get it to you later. I'm not fucking doing this again today. So I get her there. She's got all her shit. Everything's cool. I'm like, alright, you know, have a good one. Be careful. And I'm walking off, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I barely get to hang with anybody, and this is what happens when I hang out with a female in my area. But before she had even fallen back into the shed, I was more or less pissed off with the fact that she was staying on the phone with somebody the whole time. And, you know, she had put off vibes that she was into me at the time to an extent. Like, she had said some stuff that I remember that indicated she was, you know, she kind of liked me. But for us to hang out, smoke, and her stay on the phone, that was just crazy. You know, I didn't expect anything more than a conversation, and that would have been great, but I did not get that. So, at the end of the day, guys, if you really don't know who you're smoking out, sometimes it's great to just keep your joint to yourself, or your blunt, or, you know, your bong, or whatever you're going to smoke, because sometimes smoking with somebody can just be tragic. You know, there's probably a worse story smoking with somebody I can think of, but that was more or less a scary one. Like, have you ever smoked someone out that's just fallen straight back? That's fucking insane. And it scared me quite a bit. And, you know, it's safe to say that I never hung out with that girl. We didn't really keep contact anymore after that. I don't want anyone in my circle that's going to hit the joint a couple times and fall straight back. That's a liability and a responsibility, and that's not what I'm partying for. But anyways, guys, I really hope you enjoy the video. I'm gonna come out with another one tomorrow. I've got plenty of ideas, but I think I have one set in stone for tomorrow. So leave a like down below if you did enjoy the video. I do appreciate you checking it out. Leave a comment if you've had any similar stories of somebody having like crazy reactions to just some weed when you smoke them out, like somebody acting too crazy or just somebody getting real paranoid. Like, I love those stories. People smoking and can't handle their fucking weed. Stop smoking, bro. But alright, guys, you guys have a good one. Peace.